talent is being able to hit targets no one else can hit. But genius is being able to hit targets no one else can see. Sometimes getting into that door means that you see the problem differently than your competitor does. I'm not going to try to make you good at getting what everybody else knows and just make you better at that.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Door-to-Door Podcast. It's me, Hunter, not Sam. Take over, just kidding. But we're happy to have you guys here. Thanks for following along and listening. Today's going to be a really cool episode. We have something a little different for you today. We have Mike Goldenstein, owner of Roofle Technologies, which is a really cool product in the roofing industry. So if you're in roofing particularly, stay tuned because he's got a lot of cool stuff for you. But Mike Goldenstein, hailing all the way from Twin Cities, Minnesota.
Twin Cities, Minnesota, and I'm the chief revenue officer here. I'm not one of the four founders, but the technology itself was founded by four people from the roofing industry, and so it's been I've been in the roofing industry since 1992, so 33
92?
years. Since 1992, so.
I wasn't born yet.
Hunter, you probably weren't even born yet, right?
Almost. I may have been the womb. I'm early 90s.
Yeah. So I've been in the industry for a long, long time and have really grown to appreciate the multiple evolutions that have happened over the course of 3 decades.
I love it. It's going to be a good one. I had a chance to chat with Mike kind of briefly before we started recording this, and I can already tell he's got a lot of knowledge. His approach has been more so business to business type of sales. And as Sam always talks about, door-to-door or knocking on doors is many avenues. It's obviously knocking on doors. It's knocking on businesses. It's talking to people out when you're just at the grocery store. It's SMS, it's email. So I'm really excited to dig in with Mike today on how the differences are between door-to-door and business to business and extracting value from that. So you started in the industry in 92, which was a minute ago.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
And how's that run been from you? And how did you get to where you are today as the CRO of Roofle?
Yeah, so it's a slow climb on the ladder, right? And so when I started I was going through college, it was my summer job to support myself through college years. Was installing the hand nailing 3-tab shingles to salt domes around the country, kind of getting used to the life on the road and understanding the industry and kind of learning the trade. Sure. I got married in 97, moved to Minnesota, nice. And then immediately started kind of the entrepreneur part of my DNA and started a roofing company, an exterior remodeling company, ran that until 2010. And, back in those days, and I like to joke about this, right? And so for me to be successful as a roofing company, I was responsible for my own leads. I was responsible for my company, for my crews, everything like that. So everything that came in. So everything that went into both branding, anything from branding to door knocking to lead generation was all on my shoulders. And making that transition then to a manufacturer rep, pulling all of that experience in and turning that into the true B2B then experience. Because what we're challenged with is still door to door. I mean, it was still 90% cold calling. You're just not knocking on homeowners' doors. You're knocking on businesses' doors, roofing companies' doors, and giving your sales proposition and your pitch to grow your business. Again, it was as much of an entrepreneurial experience working for GAF as it was a company owner, and being able to grow my territory. And the numbers are just bigger, right? And you're just adding zeros, Totally. So where I was, kind of in my back of my mind is in the early 2000s, I wanted to do revenue of $1 million, which probably doesn't sound like much today, but back then, it was a fraction, we're 200 and, I remember the days that we started bidding jobs at $200 a square, where today that's closer to $825 a square. So that's, that's getting close to, $4 or $5 million a year. Now suddenly you're tasked with, you're not getting paid unless you're hitting your $75 million a year. Like, you're not getting paid if you're not hitting 75 million, so it was a very different
commission
thing.
bench. You mean like you have to hit that as like a benchmark to then start earning commissions on them? Or
Yep.
Wow.
So you get a base plus commission, but if you're not making your plan, you're not getting paid. And it's not about, we were lagging behind in, March, April, May, but we had a massive June. Well, guess what? June might have been massive, but if it didn't make up for March, April, May, all you're doing is trying to catch up to what your plan is. Because if you don't catch up to your plan, you're not getting paid. I think that's something that's lost a little bit in today's sales culture, where so many times you are starting at zero every single day. And so it's so easy to motivate yourself. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get out. I'm going to knock these doors. I'm going to make these sales because I'm going to get paid at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks. And sales, old school sales, isn't necessarily like that. If you can't take days off, and if you fall behind, it's almost impossible to catch up. And if you don't catch up, you don't get paid. That's a reality in sales. And so I did have a buddy of mine say, when I took the job originally, he said, here's what it's like. You're taking this job, you said yes, they're holding a gun to your head and pulling the trigger, and it's your job for the course of your career to outrun that bullet. Sounds harsh, but it's a little bit true. It's pretty intense.
Absolutely. Super intense. Couple things there. You're absolutely right. Sales is so interesting, and it takes a certain discipline, certain mindset, because what's crazy about it is kind of like you mentioned, Mike, you can have an amazing day. You wake up, you do your thing, you close some deals, you bring in lots of revenue. Well, guess what? When you go to bed and wake up, that resets back to zero the next day. And it's kind of crazy. I've had those moments myself where, you have a killer day and you're just riding that seller's high at the end of the day. And you're like, oh, I got this. This was great. And then you wake up the next day, the same you. The only thing different is you got 8 hours of sleep, hopefully. And then you're just like, you have those thoughts of like, dude, can I do this again? Like, can I go out there again and do what I just did yesterday? And the crazy part is you're not going to have those days every day, but you have to just do it every single day. And it's consistency. It's putting in the work and holding yourself accountable and just doing it. And you surprise yourself often. So I love that. Another thing too is, what was that like for you? You mentioned earlier on, you had a goal of $1 million in revenue. And then now later on in your career, you're having to sell $75 million worth of product to just hit your commission start, so to speak. What was that like for you transitionary wise? I mean, because that's a huge number, $75 million. Like I can imagine, when you were saying that, I was imagining like, what if I went to a job, I got hired to be, a big time manufacturer sales rep, going to these big organizations, selling big orders. What was that like to transition, to start talking figures with people at that level? That's big.
Yeah, so a little bit of it became, in the very beginning, was a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time, here's how you get good at it. And it has become a very big part of my life today, is where you cannot meet those goals without collaboration. And this is where the teamwork starts. And so you can be a lone ranger or a lone wolf or whatever you want to call it for as long as you want, and you will be able to achieve what you are capable of achieving. But you don't start seeing that next level of success until you start collaborating with your team. And that may look like a lot of different things, whether it's the motivation or holding yourself accountable, or understanding where each one of you excels and which ones might be a little bit lacking or a weakness. But when you start bringing people together, you start collaborating, because that number was closer to 25 million when I started. And towards the end, it was, pushing 100 million.
Still a big number.
They're massive numbers, right? But we would still, I promise you to this day that if I had joined that team and had stayed a lone ranger, lone wolf, and said, man, I'm going to hit my numbers, I would still be at that, 30 to 40 million range, meeting my minimums or maybe a little bit more. But when we started collaborating together as a team, and there was 3 of us, we set records that people didn't even know were possible to set.
Wow. Yeah, I can't even fathom having to sell that kind of figures. I've never had to do it in my career, selling door to door. I mean, I would sell solar. What was cool is we talked briefly about how Sam and our organization. So before I did what I'm doing now with the company, about 5 years ago, when we were really more, Door Experts was really like more about consulting. I was one of the consultants that went out to companies that were, clients of ours, and help structure their company based off of my knowledge of just on the sales side, at least, right? Train their sales leaders, things like that. It was really cool for me because I had a background in alarms and solar, but we had clients across the board. We had solar, roofing, pest control, fiber. We had some, one of my clients sold garbage. They go knock on a door, say, hey, you probably have waste management. We're a local company. We'll just give you bins and cut your price down a little bit. So that was a fun one. A lot of fun things being sold. But I will say my roofing clients were my favorite. I really enjoyed selling roofs. It was fun.
Thanks so much for listening to the D2D podcast and being such a loyal listener. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. And we have finally come out with a 2.0 to our D2D University. And we want to give you free access to our community where you can peruse around different micro courses to big pro and apprentice certifications. Whether you're in pest, solar, roofing, alarms, fiber, all these different industries have an amazing refresh of brand new content we spent the last year redoing. Why? Because we believe in leveling up this industry from ethics to mindset to skill sets to all the things that's going to make you an actual pro at doing this door-to-door job that we know is super difficult, but it's the same effort, but greater results with DDDU 2.0. Go to our website and get access today.
So a question for you, Mike. Has roofing been your passion since the jump? Or has it just been the thing you got into and you enjoyed it and then, you just kind of stayed in that lane?
Yeah. So, I call it, you get a little bit of asphalt in your blood and you're never going to get it out. So there was an addictive part of it, but, yeah. I think it's been a great industry. It's always been one that is, highly revenue generating. It's very quick, quick turnover. So there was a lot of things that kind of fed into my, ADD and my ego and stuff like that. But here's the other thing is, they say that the ABCs of sales is always be closing. And I've never believed that. I believe it's it's always be creating. And one of the things the roofing industry specifically has always allowed me to do is be creative. And so when I look at problems or look at opportunities, I like to look outside of the box. And, frankly, and I'll tell you the story, and I haven't told the story very often, but one of the times it was right about 2013. And I remember because, again, if you're not meeting your numbers, that's when you're, having these meetings with the upper management and they're saying, what happened? Our market share numbers went down. You're not meeting your sales number. What is going on? And that specific in industry, and at that time, specifically with my company that I was working with, we were not set up well to deal with storm restoration. So anytime a storm would come through and all these damaged homes would be damaged, our competitor always grew market share because they were so good at speaking the language of the storm restoration industry. We were built for the retail guy, and there was a lot of reasons for that. And so I got frustrated, continued to, why do I have to keep coming to these calls and saying, we lost market share, but there was a storm and it was a big storm. And my competitor that's just what happens. They always gain market share. And so there was a time, and this is what I've always appreciated about GAF at the time too, is when I started saying to my boss, I said, I want to figure this out, because everybody says, this is why they're successful at it, is because whoever gives the best deal has the lowest price wins in these storms. Because these stormers, they just want the best price, and we're never going to have the best price, so you're never going to win that battle. And I said, is that really true? I want to dedicate myself to figure out if that's true. Is it really the rebates that gets that market share? And so I dedicated the next, till today, I'm dedicated to that restoration industry to figure it out. And I found out pretty quickly that wasn't the case. And we started gaining significant market share every time the storm hit. Why? Because I was able to be creative and I thought through the process, got to know what is this industry all about and how can I help my customers the most. It's not about selling product. You know this. You're not selling a product, you're selling a solution. And as soon as we started doing that, we started gaining the market share. And then and this is where I go to this collaboration piece, because then my buddy who was on the team with me said, you know what, we keep losing projects, these 3,000, 2,000, 5,000 square projects we keep losing. And everybody's telling me it's because of price. I want to find out if that's really true. So he started in on multifamily. So then you've got him being creative on the multifamily side. I'm being creative on the restoration side. And we had a third that was just fantastic with retail. We had the three-legged stool, and we were all dedicated to our craft, and we were leaning on each other during this entire process. And we blew up the entire industry in our local market here to where, again, we were, double and tripling our market share numbers in a relatively short amount of time.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the business to business side, because again, a lot of our listeners are door knockers, but sales is sales. And sometimes there could be some like my brother-in-law, for example, he does business to business sales, and we used to joke back when I was on the doors, like what's harder, things like that. But what does that sale look like? Is it very similar to door to door? A lot of door to door transactions are one touch, two touch closes. A lot of the guys that are really like just dialed, they can get even a hefty contract signed, sometimes same day, sometimes next day, or next touch, I should say. They'll knock on a door, get a lead, come back, close, or they'll knock on the door, kind of analyze the situation. Are they asking the right buying questions, like gauging energy, and then just like kind of aggressively just going in and getting it signed. But you mentioned there's a lot of cold calling. Were you primarily cold calling, scheduling, trying to get to the right person, then going in person, or was a lot of like driving around and essentially knocking doors and trying to, close deals like a door knocker would, just with businesses?
Yes. And I would say there's also stages to it, right? So getting into the door looks different than staying in the room. Those are two different things, because, and you probably know this, and anybody who's in multifamily would know this, that, it might take you a long time to get in the room, but once you're in the room, you're taking calls. Like, you're not making calls anymore, you're taking them. And here's specifically what it looks like. And it's how do you get inside that door? And that's where there's a lot of people that are training things and saying, let's really dial it down. And there's one of my favorite phrases that I've ever heard is, talent is being able to hit targets no one else can hit. But genius is being able to hit targets no one else can see. Sometimes getting into that door means that you see the problem differently than your competitor does. I'm not going to try to make you good at getting what everybody else knows and just make you better at that. I want you to see something that nobody else sees. Yeah. And my version of getting inside of the door is not coming in and asking good questions to say, Hunter, what are your pain points? Because I think I can help on your pain points.
Yeah.
It's actually saying, Hunter, how are you resolving these escalating prices when your reserves are set at such and such? If you already know that problem, you're not asking for them to give you their problem. You already know their problem.
Right.
Let's have that question about that. And so I have so many people that are trying to out target their competitor and not finding a target that the competitor doesn't even see. And I think that's a huge difference on the time frame of how long it takes you to get into the door.
I love that. It's just high level question asking. I love that quote. Genius is hitting targets that nobody sees. A lot of just sales reps would probably ask that first question. What are your pain points versus what are you doing to resolve the pain points? Because again, and if you're listening to this, you can probably agree, whatever industry you're in, you know what the pain points are, right? You know what they are. And so it's high level question asking that can get you further once you're in the room. I love that. And I want to ask you this because I'm curious in the realm of business to business, manufacturer sales. Over the years, as you've been around or managed salespeople, you've seen good ones and bad ones, I'm sure. What do you think in your industry specifically makes someone good at sales? Or when you see someone new to the team in the past or recently, what about them would make you assume or think early on, oh, they're going to be good, or think that they're not going to be good?
I do kind of go back to that creative part. The ones that are just the strict, disciplined salesperson I know they're going to be consistent. Depends on what you mean by good, right? And so are they going to be
closing a lot?
Yeah. Are they closing a lot? You can get very consistent closers. Your high performance salespeople are a little bit different, and they do work. They're motivated differently. Most of the highest performers I know are not motivated by money. So if I have somebody that's like, I need to get this, and I'm this is one of my goals, is my income goal. I'll be like, okay, so I know what I'm going to get out of you. But it is, how well do you engage with me on your preparation, your attention to detail, and thinking outside of the box? That's my high performer.
Preparation, thinking outside the box, attention to detail. I love it. I agree. And you mentioned earlier on that, when we were talking about those high figures and how if you got behind 1-2 months, it was just a huge game of catch up just to ensure you hit it. Anytime in your career, Mike, you found yourself not on pace to hitting any kind of figures that you were expecting yourself to hit, or just kind of in a sales slump, what was your process for turning that around? A lot of times reps will get into this phase where, they could be coming off a great month or a great quarter or a great week, whatever it is, and then just go for a while of not hitting figures, not hitting sales. And they can immediately just fall into this mindset of just I'm not good enough. I can't do this. People don't want what I have to offer. So if you ever found yourself in that position, what did you do to overcome, get ahead, get back on track? And what advice would you give to people that may be in that position right now? And they come to this podcast and they come to our company for help, for a mindset change. What would your advice be to them?
Have a long-term vision.
Sorry.
Yeah, have a long-term vision. And because you also have to keep up with the changes, and so if you've been rolling along, and let's say you've got this big boulder and you're rolling it along, and then all of a sudden the terrain has changed on you. And you're like, wait a second, this used to work, or this used to be successful. The terrain has changed. Now I'm trying to push this boulder. It used to be easy. Now it's going uphill. How am I going to get my momentum back? And so you have to take a longer view of things. You're right. You know what? You're not getting paid to the rest of the year, which is a horrible thing to think in August. So how am I going to start January 1st to where the terrain is back to where it's helping me out? And some people have a small mindset that says, I'm going to quit. And I don't want it that bad. And yet what ends up happening is those that have the longer mindset, by the time that does reset, you're not just on a downhill climb. You might be on a cliff and you're like, boom, and it just explodes. That explosive growth is a long obedience in a long direction. It's not done day to day. Dan Walrack, we talk about him a lot. I mean, he's a good friend of D2D too.
Yeah.
That guy built this over 20 years so that when he wasn't getting those results necessarily in the first few months or first years, didn't matter. He was building something long term so that by the time he's in this 18th year, 20th year, 22nd year, something like that, where he hit 18 million in 1 year.
That's insane.
So, yeah. So that's mostly residential sales. So it's a long obedience in the same direction. And I love that phrase because you're trying to do things quickly and, maybe I can just push harder on this boulder. No, you need to change the terrain. You can't do that in a month. You might not be able to do that in a couple months, but you will be setting yourself up for future growth, but not just future growth, future explosion. It's a very different thing.
I agree. That's why sales is so cool. It's like a sport, it's one of those things where oftentimes sales reps are lured into whichever role, whatever industry on the basis of money. And you mentioned that the best, highest producing sales reps aren't money motivated. And I feel like the ones that are fall off quick because when those days come, when you get nothing, you're in a slump, it's very easy, especially when the money's not rolling in, like you mentioned, like having to analyze, okay, I'm not going to get paid for X amount of time. It's easy for the mind to go into a state of panic and start looking for alternative solutions. But I often like to reference it to chopping down a tree. Sometimes reps get out there and their job for the day is to go get a sale. We'll reference it as chopping down a tree. And they go out and they take 3 swings at that tree and they're just frustrated that it didn't fall yet. And they don't realize that it's no, it's going to take about 100 chops, 100 to 200 chops, maybe. Just chop down that tree. Don't get mad after chop 20, it's not down. You got to just keep going. And then sure enough, if you just keep doing your job, that tree's going to fall. And then as time goes on, you get better at your craft, you sharpen that axe, you know exactly what angles to hit, at what point in the chop, to where you can chop that tree down and 80 instead of 120. You know what I mean? And so I feel like you're right. It's just a long-term vision, realizing that if you just do it, you do it every single day, regardless of the result of that minute or that day, it'll fall. It'll fall. You got to keep going. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you're here, kind of coming back to you. You're here, you're at GAF, you're selling a lot. So kind of tell me a little bit about how you got into the logo behind you, Roofle Technologies. Kind of explain what that company is, what they do, and your role there.
Yeah, so I became familiar with the guys that are founding this company because they were a master lead contractor of mine in the Twin Cities at the time, and then they broke off from that organization to start Roofle. And the reason why is because they were always very innovative from the moment that I knew them from way back in to the point where going back to 2015, 16, 17, they were already into VR goggles. And when they would have homeowners come in and start walking their property, looking at their homes with the new products, what's going to look like. And so the multifamily, even, they would walk down their streets and see what the new buildings were going to look like long before anybody was using VR goggles. I mean, they were spending tens of thousands of dollars to something that would probably cost you $800 today. So they were always very innovative. And so they started, their leadership team would get together every year and say, what's the next thing? And so again, creative. They were the most creative, technologically savvy, advanced minds that I was working with. So they said, you know, what nobody's talking about, nobody's preparing for is e-commerce in the roofing industry. So what is that going to look like? A homeowner's going to come online, you know, they're going to be able to put in their address, get a quote, and go down this path of purchasing a roof entirely online. And so they created Roofle as a roofing company. 18 locations. They had zero reviews. They were literally in a garage. They built this technology out. And for the first 2 years, they sold, over $7 million in those 2 years. In their first years, with nothing,
Wow, that's impressive.
It was very impressive, and the technology that they've built out and the experience that they've built out is like off the charts creative and effective. And they took a lot of time to A/B test this and figure out what do homeowners want and what don't they want in this experience. What ended up happening, and this is where we get excited about what does disruption actually look like? What happened was they were getting a lot of attention from other roofing contractors going, we see this as the future as well. And so they all started asking, so how do I get your website? How much are you going to sell your website for? Because I need to do this too. This is clearly going to be the future. And that's when they closed down the roofing company portion of it, came 100% SaaS sales, turned it into a SaaS product. So now any local roofing company in the country can now subscribe to have that experience on their website. So a homeowner can come to your website and get a quote. Is this e-commerce? We can go into that. My short answer to that is Carvana how everybody buys a car today?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, right? It's going to have its place.
Sure.
But I don't feel like roofing is going to go full e-commerce anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But homeowners' demands have shifted significantly over the last 15 years.
Totally.
And how do we now equip our companies and train our salespeople to talk and have these conversations with homeowners with this shift that has happened? And that's really what I love about being on this and being part of this and being, collaborating with Sam and with your team, because it looks a lot different today than it did even 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15.
Totally. So what exact product is Roofle today? And how do you think, if we have listeners of this podcast today, who own roofing companies or are, leaders of roofing companies, how do you see what you guys provide integrating into a door-to-door sale-based roofing company?
So I'm a big proponent of when your customer asks you questions, you need to be able to answer them in a timely manner.
Sure.
And that's scary because what you are doing is giving up control a little bit of the sales process, but you're doing it for a very specific reason. You're doing it in order to earn their trust. Earning trust looks very different in 2025 than it did in 2020.
Totally.
And
I agree. 2010.
And being transparent is a big piece of that. So if you, for example, you're door knocking, and a homeowner comes to you and says, yeah, okay, I get you, spiel, but just, can you just give me a ballpark price? What we've been trained to do is say, we'll get to that. Let me do my inspection. I'm going to look around. I'm going to do the measurements. I got to look at everything. There's a lot of things that go into this price, and you're going to refuse to give them the price. And that worked because there was a lot of reasons why that worked. But, frankly, homeowners didn't have access to the type of information that they have today, namely
100%.
through the internet.
Yeah.
Today, that looks a lot different. Because if you're refusing to give them and answer the question, the sooner they're just going to kick you out because they don't trust you. If you're hiding this, what else are you hiding? Why are you not willing to give me a ballpark price? Just leave. I don't have time for this anyway, right? So you start hearing all of these objections. So what our software does is you will literally be able to, no problem, put the address in. You have the house there, up to 10 structures. You know the number of squares, the pitch complexity of everything that you're just seeing there. Go with the homeowner. Which one do you want to have a estimate on? Pick which structures they want. Hit return. You have products, pricing, warranty, all of your value proposition ready to go in less than 30 seconds. Give them to the homeowner to earn your spot at the kitchen table, because that spot at the kitchen table is priceless right now. How do you earn your right to get there?
Totally. Who would you say your biggest competitors are, and what makes you guys different from them?
This is such a great question, because when I made that transition from manufacturing to Roofle, which is just this tiny upstart bootstrap tech company, that was the first question I asked is, who's our competitors? And the CEO at the time said, we don't really have one, but we hope we get some soon. Because of the proof of concept,
right?
Because we're disrupting an entire industry. If we're the only ones doing it, we're the only ones doing it. But as soon as we have some competitors, which we have about 12 of them now, they're just so far behind that it's going to take, by the time they catch up to us, because we're innovating so quickly, they're just starting to catch up to where we were, when we launched 2.5 years ago. In fact, they're really not even that far. So the fact that we now have in less than 3 years, almost a dozen competitors, only proves that we were right.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. It does.
So the difference is the amount that we have of information. We can get the number of squares, pitch, and complexity of up to 10 structures in less than a second.
Wow.
Most of our competitors are like, well, we'll give you the outline of the building. And if you give us all the rest of the information, like the pitch and the complexity, we'll kind of give you, what an asphalt roof would. Whereas we're giving you products, pricing, warranties. Like it takes a long time to build tech. And so a lot of the stuff that has taken us, 5 years to come, people that are in the industry 5 months they've got a long way to catch up. So, and here's the important part. And this is what I want everybody to hear, because what I'm not saying is throw around price loosely. What I'm saying is, when you're presenting the price, be prepared to give the value proposition at the same time and in a way that they want to consume it. So here's the other part of it, right? More and more homeowners don't trust salespeople. What do they trust? The internet. The younger those generations, they said, this is why there's such a huge difference, because we used to be able to say, I need a driveway. I have a friend's uncle that I think owns a driveway company. So I'm going to work him because I know somebody that knows somebody and I automatically trust them, or a referral. I automatically trust them. And today's mind, the one that's been built, the younger minds, right? The ones that have, been grown up with the internet on their phone.
Yep.
They are saying, no. You're just saying you want me to use your guy because it's your guy, not because it's the right person for me. I want their what? Reviews. And I want 100 reviews so that I can go through to these disinterested third parties, ones that want to get you, that will get you, the ones that love you will love you. I trust that. I asked my 9-year-old actually came to me the other day and said, who's the greatest running back in NFL history? And of course I told him, it's not even close. Walter Payton, greatest running back in NFL history. And what was his response?
Who's that?
No, he said, give me your phone.
Oh.
What do you want my phone for? And he said, hey, Siri, who's the greatest running back in NFL history? I'm like, what do you... Who am I? I just told you who it was, you know, because, and we have to understand that as door-to-door salesmen, this younger generation that was raised with access to the internet, they can't wait for you to leave so that they can what?
Look up
Go to
online.
the internet and verify that what you said was true.
100%.
And so we have to be able to earn and build that trust with your homeowner a very different way today than we used to. The other one that's really one of my favorites, and I'm sure everybody understands this, when you're knocking on the door, and the old one was, hey, Bruce and Sue right down the road, they're already using us. Mm-hmm. And they told me that, you'd be a good commit or whatever, however you're saying that. That used to be a great strategy until suddenly now you're knocking on the door and you say, Bruce and Sue are using us. And they go, who the hell are Bruce and Sue?
Yep. Totally.
Right? So this is why we're saying you keeping up with the changes looks a little bit different today than it used to be. We just need to continue to be equipped for those changes as they come.
I completely agree. And it has been, I've been in the industry for 10 years. And, back then, technology was good in 2015, but it was still kind of old school. I even started with paper contracts. But they say if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. And with the changing world and newer homeowners, as you mentioned, and people that have been brought up with the internet, and then every other product or service essentially that they want, they can have it, buy it, deliver it, anything on their phone, on their computer. I think it's such an important piece of tech that roofers should include. And, I don't think it needs to diminish or really change the sales process at all. If I was using Roofle and I was a roofing sales rep and someone's like, just give me the figures, I'd be like, absolutely. That's actually the best part of what we provide is an instant quote that's deadly accurate, verified. Let me just have a seat at the kitchen table really quick and I'll pull that up for you in less than 60 seconds. And you can just beautifully integrate what you offer into the existing approach that reps have been trained and bred to do versus selling an inspection or, sounds good. Let me throw my ladder up really quick and I'll be back in 10 minutes. It's just great question. I don't need to just mess with any of that. Let's hop into the kitchen counter right now and I'll have everything you could possibly need to know all the ins and outs in your roof right here. So I feel like it's a beautiful combination, but go ahead.
Yeah. How many times have I heard that story? Because again, for those of you who are roofing or storm restoration, I hear this so many times. You might be the 8th person at the door. Totally. And they've said that. They've made that request to 7 other people. And you're the first one to go, yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm. Let's find out what your claim could be worth. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, all of your other competitors are like, I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
What do you look like when you say, I don't know, to a question that your homeowner just asked? Really? You've been in business for what? 12 years? Yeah. And you don't know what the cost of this is going to be? Oh, I don't know. We do it whatever the insurance does the price for. Yeah. What have you done? You've invalidated your expertise. You don't know how to value this project. And so there's so many different times that people are call me or text me and go, it's exactly what happened. I was the 8th one to the door, but I'm the one that got the contract because 7 different people said, I don't know what this is going to cost. I did. I had it to them in less than 60 seconds. and they sign my contract at the spot.
That's amazing. I love it. Last question about Roofle, again, for the people in roofing listening. How, if someone uses your service, how does that integrate into their existing, like, how do they get that integrated into their day-to-day operations? Is it a tricky process? Is it like, a rep comes out from Roofle and trains everybody? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so I love that question for a few different reasons, because we believe that we are a bolt-on to what you're currently doing. We're not disrupting your flow. Your flow is about lead nurture. We're about lead generation. So we're just going to help you get more leads and get you higher qualified leads. And then we ship that off into your CRM, or you do whatever you want out of that. And the reason is because, again, we're not trying to change who you are as a company, because not all of your customers are that same exact customer. You have customers all around. Like, think of this. It is probably harder to be a salesman, particularly in the home improvement space today, than ever before, because you've got people like me. I was actually a computer science major for 2.5 years in college.
Oh, wow.
Now, that was not my world, and I quickly changed. And I actually graduated as a Christian education major, but I graduated college. I had never owned a computer in my life. And even as a computer science major for 2.5 years, I'd never owned a computer. I didn't own a computer for another 5 years. So you're trying to sell to me, who has that background in tech, and my engagement with the internet and these fancy technologies is what it is. I don't trust the internet the way that my kids do. You've also got homeowners today. About half of the homeowners that are 40 years and younger never knew a life without a computer.
Totally.
And have only known a world where they've had access to the internet and the information that's about there. So you have to take both of these worlds combined. That's why we say we are a bolt-on to what we are already doing. We're not going to disrupt your flow, but we are going to equip you to have a systematic approach to your sales funnel and your sales process, so that you can deal with both. Because you said, if you keep doing the things you've always done, you'll get the same result that you've always had. The problem is that's not true in sales. Try to tell that to the used car dealership that refused to give a price transparently. You would put a truck in an ad and say, call for price or stop over, and you're not going to give them a price until they do a test drive. Are they getting the same result that they've always had? No, they are getting zero results today. Zero. If that ad says call for price, I ain't calling for a price. Are you kidding me? So that's really the fear, or shall I say the intensity of where we're at as a society today in the sales culture, is that if you refuse to be transparent, you're not going to get the same results you've always had. You are going to lose access to any customers. Totally. And now you start adding in the AI and these answer engines compared to the search engine optimization, and you're in a completely different world. That is a whole nother conversation.
I know, totally. The introduction of AI in business is wild. We're in the middle of integrating it with our D2D training platform and being able to do a role play with AI on our app that gives really good feedback. We had Sam test it. Sam gave a door pitch, and the feedback it gave it, which it extracts from all of our training videos, is pretty crazy. So yeah, AI in business is wild. But last thing, Mike, before we wrap up here, it's been great to have you on. I think you guys are doing really cool things. If people listening want to find you, schedule a call, do a demo, learn more, how can they make that happen?
Yeah, we try to make that very, very easy for you. Go to roofle.com. You can try out the software, put some addresses in. You can see the experience, see how that works, and then schedule a demo. That's really the best way to do it. Give us 30 minutes. We'll show you how it works, how it lives on your website. But then don't forget about the D2D portion of this. We give you unlimited number of users on this, no additional cost. The subscription is a subscription. Put your entire team on there. Give them inside sales, outside sales, production guys. Give that all to them, because this is about lead generation. We want you to be successful with this. Our pricing is right there, front page. $350 a month. There is a setup fee because we do walk you through the entirety. We're not going to ask you to become a tech guru to be able to do all your integrations. We'll do all that with you. It's as quick as the easiest way. Whatever you do, Don't go to my Facebook page because I'm a little bit different than most people. I actually built these hats, make ChatGPT dumb again. My mission in life is to put so much stupid garbage on the internet that I can confuse ChatGPT. Promise you, I'm going to make ChatGPT dumb again. I'm going to save Hunter.
That is funny. I'll say just to wrap up here, ChatGPT is already dumb. I'll ask it questions of things I already know the answer to. I use it for like data analyzation with my job, and I'll already do my analyzation of it, get a figure, right? Double check it. Okay, I'm pretty certain. Ask ChatGPT, analyze this. It'll spit out a figure. And a lot of times it's wrong. And I'll literally be like, are you sure about that? He double check it. And a lot of times it'll be like, oh, yep, you're right. Whoops, this is what I got. And I'm just like, huh. So my little brother went to go get a certain type of coolant for his truck. He ChatGPT'd, hey, here's my Chevy 2500 this year. What's the coolant or Freon or whatever? It suggested it. And then he just went and bought it, put it in, blew up his AC. It cost him $3,000 to go fix it because of ChatGPT. So I don't think you even need to work there, Mike. I think
I'm just going to say you're welcome. That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, hey, super cool tech, roofle.com. You can experience it yourself, book a call. Sounds like they're just pioneers in that space. But Mike, glad to have you on. Thanks for the knowledge share. Hope you guys got a lot out of this. And as always, hit like, hit subscribe, follow along. We release these things often. And thanks for tuning in. And Mike, thanks for having you.
I appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.